Welcome. The procedure which can be used for conducting a trial on engine at UG level. Basically, engines are tested for obtaining performance characteristics, emission characteristics, and to obtain losses which are occurring in the engines. So, I will be covering the procedure which can be used at UG level for conducting a trial on single cylinder diesel engine. This procedure can also be used for multi-cylinder engine, petrol engines, and various performance parameters and emission characteristics can be obtained. I will be focusing mainly on the performance parameters, and finally we will also discuss about the heat balance sheet. Now, objective of conducting this trial is to obtain the performance parameters at varying load and to draw the heat balance sheet. So, the engine which is generally available in most of the institutes is a single cylinder diesel engine, or it can be a multi-cylinder diesel engine which is connected to a dynamometer. This dynamometer can be of any type. In most of the institutes nowadays, eddy current dynamometer is used as it gives more accurate values, and this eddy current dynamometer is loaded with using a loading unit. Now, the engine is supplied with a fuel. This fuel can be measured. It is supplied with the air. So, there is a flow measuring device which can be used for measuring the flow rate of the air. This mixture, once it enters the engine, after the combustion it generates the power which is then given to the dynamometer or measured using the dynamometer. Dynamometer is basically a loading unit wherein you can simulate the load conditions, varying load conditions, and you can load the engine. Engine can be air cooled or water cooled, but generally most of the engines, they are water cooled engines. So, coolant is supplied at a temperature which is lower, and then once it cools the engine, it gets heated up, and that temperature can also be measured. Exhaust gases, they are thrown out when the cycle is completed or at the end of the cycle, and then this exhaust gases, they are passed through the exhaust gas calorimeter, which is used for actually obtaining the value of specific heat of the exhaust gases, and then it is thrown out to the atmosphere. Exhaust gas calorimeter is basically a heat exchanger wherein exhaust gases lose heat to the water which is circulated through the exhaust gas calorimeter, and using a proper energy balance the value of Cp can be obtained. So, as far as setup is concerned, you have an engine which is connected to the dynamometer. It can be of any type, like it can be a rope brake dynamometer, hydraulic dynamometer, electrical dynamometer, or eddy current dynamometer, and we can actually use various observations for obtaining the performance parameters. Now, as far as specification of this engine which I am talking about is concerned, it is a single cylinder engine. It is a 4-stroke engine, purely used is diesel. Rated power output is 5.2 kilowatt at 1500 rpm. Rated power gives you maximum efficiency at this output. Cylinder dimensions are also given. Orifice diameter, which is a flow measuring device. Orifice is used as a flow measuring device, so diameter of this orifice is given as 20 millimeter, and coefficient of discharge is assumed to be constant and equal to 0.6. Dynamometer arm length is 185 millimeter. So, this is the distance between the axis of the output shaft and the point at which load is measured. So, this distance is 185 millimeter. So this specifications are given. Using this specifications and the observations which are noted down, you can actually calculate the performance parameter. So what are the observations which are to be noted down? First one is the load. So we are varying the load. We start from zero load and it can be increased to the maximum load which engine can cater. Then speed is measured at each and every load. Then in order to obtain fuel flow rate, we are taking the observation for time which is required for 10 ml of fuel consumption. Then in order to obtain air flow rate, we are measuring the manometric difference, which is manometric difference of the manometric fluid which is connected across the orifice meter. Then in order to draw a heat balance sheet, we are measuring some other things like flow rate of the water through engine jacket, flow rate of water through calorimeter, that is exhaust gas calorimeter, and we are measuring the temperatures of water and exhaust gases at the inlet and outlet of each of the device, like the water inlet temperature at the engine jacket, inlet of the engine jacket, water temperature at the outlet of the engine jacket, then temperature of water at the inlet of the exhaust gas calorimeter, outlet of the exhaust gas calorimeter, and we are using proper notations for that. Similarly, we measure the exhaust gas temperature at the outlet of the engine, which is same as inlet to the calorimeter, which is denoted as T5, and temperature of exhaust gases at the outlet of the calorimeter. Now this temperatures and flow rates, they will be used for obtaining the heat balance sheet, and first four observations they will be used for calculating the performance parameters, other performance parameters. Now the temperatures which are obtained in this setup, they are in millivolt, so it needs to be converted to degree Celsius. So a simple formula is given by the manufacturer, and it is temperature in degree Celsius is equal to factor into V minus 1. V is the reading which is obtained for different temperatures. Now factor is 25 for water temperatures, and for gas temperatures it is 300. So just substitute this value and the observations which are obtained using that. Now the first parameter which is calculated is the brake power. So we use a simple expression, that is 2 pi nt by 60 by 1000, that gives you value in kilowatt. So torque is calculated using the observation, that is W, that is load, into dynamometer arm length into 9.81. So this gives you value of torque in Newton meter, and you can substitute it here and you will get brake power. Speed is also measured, so you can easily obtain brake power using the expression 2 pi nt by 60,000. Another expression which can be used for obtaining brake power is the simplified formula, that is W into N by K. W is from the torque, this L 9.81, 2 pi and 60,000, they are constant, so it will be taken care of by this single K, which is called as dynamometer constant. So only variables are W and N, remaining things are constant. So this K is the dynamometer constant. So if for a dynamometer a constant is known, we can directly use this formula for calculating brake power. So once brake power is calculated, then the other parameters like fuel consumption, which has a derived formula, that is 10 by T. So since time for 10 ml of fuel consumption is noted down, so that time is denoted as small t. So 10 ml divided by second. So ml per second divided by 10 to power 6 will give you value in meter cube per second. We need value in kg per hour, so we multiply it by 3600, so that second is converted to hour, and once you multiply it by density, meter cube per hour will be converted in kg per hour. So in this way we can obtain another thing, that is fuel consumption. The next one is the important parameter which gives us idea about the fuel economy, and that is specific fuel consumption. So once you know brake power and fuel consumption, you can easily calculate specific fuel consumption or brake specific fuel consumption, which is fuel consumed in order to obtain unit power, and it is given as fuel consumed divided by brake power, and the unit is kg per kilowatt hour or gram per kilowatt hour. So accordingly you can use the units and get this value. So this gives us fuel economy, and it should be as low as possible. Another important performance parameter is the brake thermal efficiency, which is output by input. Output in this case is brake power divided by input, which is mass of fuel into calorific value of the fuel, that is heat input, total heat input. So this gives us value of brake thermal efficiency, and this value should be higher. If you see these two parameters, brake specific fuel consumption and brake thermal efficiency, then they are actually reciprocal of each other. So if brake thermal efficiency is high, that means specific fuel consumption will be lower. So if you want to obtain higher brake thermal efficiency, you should have lower values of, or you should get lower values of brake specific fuel consumption. Then next thing is friction power. So there are various methods of obtaining friction power, which I have discussed in one of my videos. So one of the method which is used for a single cylinder engine is Williams line method, and it is a graphical way of obtaining the friction power. So I'll discuss that later. So for now you can just remember that using Williams line method you can get the friction power. Once friction power is obtained, you just add brake power, which we have obtained, plus the friction power, and you will get indicated power. And once indicated power is known, you can also calculate the brake thermal indicated thermal efficiency, which is output, that is indicated power, by input, that is MF into CV. So this Williams line method, as I told you, this is a graphical way of obtaining the friction power. So that we will discuss in the next slide. So since we have calculated fuel consumption in kg per hour and brake power values at different loads, you can draw this graph of fuel consumption versus brake power. So suppose you have taken 5 observations or 6 observations, you can just jot down these values on this graph and draw a line which passes through average of these points. So you will get a straight line, and generally Williams line method is used for engines where quality governing is used, where the fuel is properly regulated. In quantity governing, the amount of air fuel mixture is governed, but the quality may differ. But in quality governing, the quality of the mixture is properly maintained as per the load or operating conditions. So you get a straight line like this, which passes through the average of these points on this graph. So when you extend it towards the negative direction, in the negative direction, it will firstly cut the y-axis. So whatever value of fuel consumption you get where the line cuts the y-axis is the fuel consumed in overcoming the friction during idling condition. Further, when you extend this line towards the negative x-axis, it will cut the negative x-axis, and if you choose a proper scale, same scale in positive x direction and negative x direction on x-axis, you will get a friction power which is the point at which line cuts the negative x-axis. Once you get the friction power, you add brake power at individual load, and you will get indicated power at that load. So this is the method which is used for obtaining friction power. This can be used in single cylinder engines as well as multi-cylinder engine. So there is a term which is mechanical efficiency. So once brake power and indicated power are obtained, you can just divide them and you will get this value of indicated efficiency, mechanical efficiency. If the mechanical efficiency is 80%, it indicates that 20% is the frictional loss. So just by looking at this value, you can actually get an idea about the frictional loss which are occurring in the frictional losses which are occurring in the engine. Another important parameter is the volumetric efficiency. Generally, we talk about the capacity of the engine in cc. Like suppose you have a 100 cc engine, and based on that we say that higher the capacity of the engine, higher will be the power output. But generally what happens is, because of hot gases present in the engine, high temperature of the cylinder, because of the friction or because of the combustion, the volumetric efficiency is never 100%, it is always less than 100%. So we should actually calculate this value, and this value should be higher, and this value is given by just taking the ratio of actual volume which is sucked in divided by capacity of the engine, which is equivalent to swept volume. So swept volume can be easily calculated using the dimensions, so which is pi by 4 d square into L. 100 cc is pi by 4 d square into L. Suppose you have a 100 cc engine, so based on the dimensions you can easily get that value. VA can be obtained using an flow measuring device. So in our setup we have used a manometer, orifice meter, and across this orifice meter we have used a manometer in order to obtain the flow rate. So manometric difference is noted down, which is denoted as HW, and from HW we can easily get value of HA by just equating the pressure difference in terms of water column and air column. Once HA is obtained, we can use that in a simple formula of volume flow rate, which is area into velocity. Velocity is given as under root of 2g HA into coefficient of discharge. So coefficient of discharge is given as 0.6. Area into velocity is the theoretical value into coefficient of discharge will give us actual value. So once this value is calculated, and this value is calculated in meter cube per second, divided by swept volume should also be in meter cube per second. So we are multiplying this pi by 4 d square into L by N, which is a time factor. N is in RPM, so it is divided by 60, so you get value in RPS. Now we need number of suction strokes. So number of suction strokes in case of 4-stroke engines is N by 2, that is half of RPM. So 2 is also divided to this term, and you get value of Vs also in meter cube per second. So you can now divide these two values, Va by Vs, and get volumetric efficiency, and this value should be higher. You can also calculate mass flow rate of air, which is volume flow rate into density, and that can be in kg per second. And finally you can calculate air fuel ratio, which is mass of air by mass of fuel. See to it that both the units are same, and you get value of air fuel ratio. So in the result table we have various loads and the parameters which are calculated. Using these parameters at different loads, we can also draw graphs of performance characteristics. So firstly, since we have calculated various parameters, using those parameters with respect to output, that is brake power or load, you can draw these graphs. So the first parameter was brake thermal efficiency. So you can see that at zero load the brake thermal efficiency is 0, and as the load increases, the brake thermal efficiency will increase, and it reaches the peak point and again it drops. Similarly, the specific fuel consumption at 0 load is infinity, and it reduces, and it is minimum at rated output, and then again it increases. At rated output, generally the air fuel ratio is slightly greater than stoichiometric air fuel ratio, and we get maximum economy, and beyond this point the air fuel ratio or the mixture becomes rich, air fuel ratio reduces, and the economy also reduces. So brake thermal efficiency reduces and brake specific fuel consumption increases. The other parameters like volumetric efficiency, since this is a constant speed engine, volumetric efficiency should actually remain constant, but since there is a rise in temperature and pressure inside the cylinder with the increase in load, there is a slight drop in the value of volumetric efficiency with the increase in load, that can be seen here. And as far as air fuel ratio is concerned, at lower loads fuel consumption is less. Air consumption, since this is a constant speed engine, it is nearly same, there is slight variation, but the fuel consumption is lower at lower loads and it increases with the increase in load. So the air fuel ratio reduces. As I told you, at rated output the air fuel ratio is or the mixture is lean, that means the air fuel ratio is slightly greater than the stoichiometric air fuel ratio, and then it further drops and mixture becomes rich and the economy reduces. You can also draw a graph of mechanical efficiency. Mechanical efficiency is 0 at 0 load, and it increases with the increase in load. So that trend can also be seen if you draw the curve of mechanical efficiency. So this is about the performance characteristics. You can also measure the emissions using a exhaust gas analyzer, and you can note down the pollutants such as emissions such as carbon monoxide, unburnt hydrocarbon, carbon dioxide, oxygen if any in the exhaust, NOx, sulfur dioxide, and all these pollutants can be obtained at different loads, and this emission characteristics can also be obtained. So this is about the performance characteristics and emission characteristics. Now next thing is to balance sheet. In this heat balance sheet we have two parts. One is the credit side, which is same as the total heat input to the engine, and second one is the debit side, in which we are actually considering all the heat which is being utilized and the losses which are occurring in the engine. So on credit side, as I told you, it is the total heat input, which is same as heat supplied to the engine, and this is calculated using a simple formula, that is MF into calorific value of the fuel. Heat balance sheet can be drawn on second basis, minute basis or hour basis. So if you are drawing heat balance sheet on hour basis, the unit will be kilojoule per hour. So see to it that you are taking this values with proper units, so that you finally you get value in kilojoule per hour if you are drawing heat balance sheet on hour basis. This is total heat, so it is taken as 100%. On heat expenditure side, that is on debit side, you have four components. First component is the heat utilized, which is denoted as Q1, and this is same as heat equivalent to brake power. So we have brake power in kilowatt, which is kilojoule per second. You multiply it by 3600, you will get value in kilojoule per hour. So for different loads we get different values of heat utilized, heat losses. So this heat balance sheet is drawn for a particular load. So, for that load, whatever is the heat utilized, that will give you the efficiency, which is the heat utilized divided by heat supplied for that load. Then next component is the heat carried away by the coolant or cooling water, which is then loss from the engine, heat loss from the engine, and this is given by a simple expression which is mw cpw into delta t, mcp into delta t. Now this values for mass flow rate of water through engine jacket, temperatures T2 and T1, they are noted down. So, and Cp can be assumed as 4187 or 4.187 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and you can get the value of this heat carried away by the cooling water easily with proper units. Next thing is heat carried away by the exhaust gases. Now here this value of mg can be easily calculated if you know mass of air and mass of fuel at that load. So just using mass balance, you can get the value of mass of gases which are formed. T5 is measured, Ta it can be measured. This is atmospheric temperature. So temperature difference across the engine is T5, that is exhaust gases coming out of the engine, temperature of the exhaust gases coming out of the engine minus atmospheric temperature. But Cp value depends on the composition of the exhaust gases. So with the change in load, the fuel consumption is changing, so the composition of gases is also changing. So how to get this value? Exhaust gas calorimeter, and we are using a simple energy balance across this exhaust gas calorimeter and obtain Cp value. So exhaust gases from the engine, they are supplied to the exhaust gas calorimeter, which is properly insulated, and then this exhaust gases will leave the exhaust gas calorimeter at lower temperatures, since water which is supplied to the exhaust gas calorimeter is absorbing some amount of heat. So using a simple energy balance in which you are equating the heat lost by the exhaust gases in the exhaust gas calorimeter with the heat which is gained by water in the exhaust gas calorimeter, you can write this expression, simple mathematical expression, using the temperatures and flow rates. So mg into Cpg, this is mass of gases into specific heat of the exhaust gases, into temperature difference across the exhaust gas calorimeter for exhaust gases. So that is T5 minus T6, T5 minus T6. This is equated with heat gained by the water which is circulated through exhaust gas calorimeter, and it is given by mCp into delta T. So mass flow rate of water through the calorimeter is also noted down. So that value is used here, and temperatures are also noted down, T3 and T4. So T4 minus T3, that gives you temperature, which is temperature increase across the exhaust gas calorimeter. So just equate this two heats, it is heat which is lost by the exhaust gases with the heat gained by the water, and only unknown in this case is the Cp. Once this Cp is calculated, or mg into Cpg is calculated, it can be used here, and you can easily get the heat which is carried along with the exhaust gases. Once these are calculated, now in the heat balance sheet you have heat utilized, heat carried away by the coolant, and heat carried away by the exhaust gases. The three things are calculated. Whatever is the remaining, that is total heat input after burning the fuel in the cylinder minus heat utilized and heat losses. If you make the total of these three components, that is heat utilized, heat lost along with the coolant, and heat lost along with the exhaust gases. So add them and subtract them from the total heat which is supplied to the engine, that is Mf into Cv. You will get heat unaccounted, and this completes our heat balance sheet. So in this way you can account the losses, and we can also draw graph in which you can show area with the increase in load where the heat utilized is increasing, losses are reducing at each load. So that diagram can also be drawn and you can actually complete this heat balance sheet. So this is all about the trial which can be conducted on engine. Using this trial, as I told you, you can obtain performance parameters, emission characteristics, and you can also obtain the losses using heat balance sheet. Thank you.